Friends, we continue with points relating to the type of questions that will be asked in the interviewing board for the civil services examination, and the kind of answers that will have to be given, and as to how various dimensions will have to be looked at when giving those answers. I was talking about how India has been consistently following an ethical policy even when it comes to its relations with other nations. The people who formulate policy when it comes to matters within the country and with regard to matters concerning India and other nations are the civil servants. And therefore, it's very important for civil servants to have that sense of ethics embedded in their personalities, so that it comes out in the form of a gushing stream when the situation demands it. Considering the importance of ethics, therefore, I would not be surprised if the board gives you a case study and asks you to react to it. In all these matters, I think it's very important to make sure that national interest, the public interest, the departmental interest, in that order, are taken care of, and that personal interest or one's selfish interest is not given any importance. The whole point about civil services being an organ of public service is about practicing such ethics in one's conduct and behavior when working in the civil services. And therefore, when given a case study, just as case studies do appear in the written papers, and I'm sure most candidates know how to give answers, in the interviewing board, it's slightly different, because normally the interviewing member would refer to an occurrence in his, either in his career or what he has probably seen in somebody's career, and expect the candidate to react to it and judge the candidate's performance based on how he or a successful civil servant handled a similar situation. Now, let's for example take a point where there is a law and there is a rule, and the rule is being violated, and this particular person who is in the system is aware of that violation. Imagining the candidate to be that particular person, what would the candidate do in such a situation? There are a variety of options. We must understand that rules are meant to be observed. We must understand that there are methods available in the civil services to sort out such problems. As for example, if one has a difficult boss who insists that this particular person follow a wrong line, would the candidate still go beyond his superior? In that case, how would he do that? These are questions for which answers will have to be clearly given. One cannot beat about the bush. If you look at the various dimensions, 3 or 4 points are obvious. Nobody in the system is supposed to violate the rules. At the same time, one cannot be indisciplined to the extent of disobeying one's superior officer. Faced with this piquant situation, a candidate may go on leave, a candidate may take the matter up to an authority which is superior to the superior officer, or a candidate may succumb to the orders of the superior officer and carry out his bidding, or a candidate or a particular person may refuse to carry out his bidding. Thus, various options are available. If you look at the right observance of practice in the civil services, the right course of action would be to inform the rule position to his superior officer through a written note and seek written orders. And if the superior officer insists in writing to follow the wrong line through an order given in writing, it is only then that this particular person can take the matter up with an authority higher than the superior officer. Going on leave is no option at all unless one is forced to a point when there is no other option available. It is the option of last resort. Going on leave at the first instance or resigning from the service would be treated as cowardice. It would be treated as somebody who is retreating from the battlefield. One has joined the civil services to carry out good work for the benefit of the public. One has not joined the civil services to leave the service at every such juncture or to go on leave whenever faced with a challenge. So such answers therefore would be inappropriate to say, well, I would go on leave or I would retreat, I would go away, I would resign from the service. The priority of interests in the ladder will always have to be kept in mind. For a civil servant, the national interest matters the most. Subsequent to that, the local societal interest, the state interest matters. Below that would fall the departmental interest or the interest of the public sector undertaking in which he or she is functioning. After all this would come personal interest. If therefore one is clear about the priorities and if one is clear about the various options that are available, it would be quite easy for one to check or to choose the right option. And that is how such questions based on ethics will have to be answered. There could also be questions where one combines national pride with current events and with an element of ethics to be detected in the question. Let's, for example, look at the history of India. If one has taken this as an optional subject, and even one has not taken this as an optional subject, it's quite possible that any interviewing member could ask the candidate about his reaction on what he feels about rewriting the history of India. The right way to approach an answer to this question would be to look at important matters where national honor and pride are involved and which don't figure in a perceivable manner in the way history is being taught in our schools and colleges today. One can give examples about this. There is so much in Indian thought about science, about architecture, about temple building, about astrology, and so many areas which ancient Indian thought has bequeathed to us. But we don't rightfully take pride in all that when reading our history. We start with Copernicus and Galileo when it comes to looking at the principle or the concept of the earth going around the sun. Obviously, such concepts were well known to India even much before Copernicus or Galileo even thought about it. What about the advances in medicine? Those are not finding normal place in our history books. Apart from that, there are so many events which have taken place in various parts of India which have not been given due importance in our history books, such as the contribution which the southern states have made for the freedom movement, the northeastern states have made for the freedom movement. I think those points definitely do need inclusion. The kings and the monarchs and the generals who fought against the British at that time have not received adequate coverage. Thus, it's quite clear that the history of India as we learn it today does require some change. But it does not mean it has to be thrown out and overhauled completely. That would be a distortion of history. Thus, by giving suitable logic to justify our answers, one can bring clarity into the answers and one can express oneself coherently, clearly, and logically. There could also be questions about the way our political thinkers have functioned. For example, if one were to look at Gandhiji and Sri Aurobindo and Dr. Ambedkar, it would be interesting to see how they had different viewpoints on so many issues. Again, while the viewpoints were there, they also knew as to how they could submerge their differences and come to a point of elevated thought which would serve as a guidance for generations to come. Again, taking inspiration from what Swami Vivekananda has said, that India is known for its tolerance. The spiritual greatness of India has been its ability to believe that while God is one, different religions may show different paths to reach God. And therefore, one must understand that every religion has shown a path which is found to be relevant among large sections of people. It's important to respect that religion, it is important to respect that faith which large millions of people have vested in that religion because of the fact that millions of people have vested their faith in that religion to reach God. And this is exactly what Swami Vivekananda underlined in his famous speech at Chicago, when he said that just as different rivers reach the sea, different religions show different paths to reach God. So taking inspiration from such quotations, deriving strength from the viewpoints of great thinkers, one can buttress one's argument and explain even features of the Constitution. We have the special and unique features in the Indian Constitution. Articles 25 to 28, which give special privileges with regard to worship, with regard to following religious practices, with regard to pursuing the establishment of religious institutions. And all those articles of the Constitution derive their strength from what Swami Vivekananda has said at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And therein lies the common thread. It is this common thread which must be expressed when facing the interview board, so that it is clear to the board that one has an understanding of the subject, one has analyzed it logically, and one has clarity of thought with regard to the conclusions. If we are able to pinpoint and express ourselves clearly so as to address the question raised by the interviewing member, one has achieved all that is to be achieved in the civil services interview.